In the article Christmas with the Kung, we follow a man named Lee who describes his experience he had while living with the Kung Bushmen in the Kalahari Desert. After 3 years of living with the Kung Bushmen, Lee wanted to thank them for their hospitality, so he brought them what he thought would be a massive ox, capable of feeding the entire group of Bushmen and their families for a Christmas feast. But to his surprise, the Bushmen riffed and teased him, saying that it is too thin and too old to be eaten. As Bana, one of the Bushmen, stated, "Everybody knows there's no meat on that old ox. What did you expect to see from it? The horns?" Frustrated by their jokes, he goes to figure out if he truly chose a poor ox or not. In doing this, he discovers this is their culture, using humor as a device to thwart arrogance and boastfulness within the tribe. As stated by Tommaso, yes, when a young man kills much meat, he comes to think of himself as a chief or a big man, and he thinks of the rest of us as his servants or inferiors. We can't accept this. We refuse one who boasts, for someday his pride will make him kill somebody. So we always speak of his meat as worthless. This way we cool his heart and make him gentle. From the perspective of worldview, Ali saw the act of purchasing an ox as a symbol of philanthropy. It was his way of being generous as a thank you for allowing him to live among the Bushmen all those years. But the Bushmen's worldview is based on humility and equity. For them, although he purchased an ox that could feed the entire tribe, they still teased him as their way to keep him humble. Lee's frustration from this teasing stems from the assumption that his gesture should define the meaning of the exchange. Lee inadvertently positioned his worldview as superior, disregarding the depth of the Bushmen's social practices, which emphasized equality and discouraged arrogance. This ethnocentric bias is evident in the conversation Lee has with Hakgose, a Swana non-native outsider who adopted the Bushman culture, and Tommaso, a Bushman leader. With Hakgose, Lee states, "With us whites, Christmas is supposed to be the day of friendship and brotherly love. What I can't figure out is why the Bushmen went to such lengths to criticize and belittle the ox I had brought for the feast. The animal was perfectly good, and their jokes and wisecracks practically ruined the holiday for me. Is this the way outsiders are treated?" This shows he purchased an ox with his own Western ideals in mind, arrogantly believing they should inherently be grateful for the big ox he bought. But when he perceived they weren't, he was offended. Lee assumed his way of showing generosity was the right way, and he judged their response against his cultural expectations, seeing it as ungrateful or even hostile. In reality, their behavior reflected their own cultural values, not a rejection of his. This is also reflected in his later conversation with Tommaso, who explained their custom of downplaying meat to keep hunters humble. When Lee asked, "But why didn't you tell me this before?" Tommaso responded, "Because you never asked me." Ultimately, to better understand them, he should have just asked. I can tie the Kung Bushman's use of humor to my own cultural background. In Southern Black culture, humor has historically been more than just entertainment. It has been both a coping mechanism and an expression of love. For centuries, humor has developed as a means of resisting oppression while also fostering community, offering hope, and sustaining relationships through difficult times. Growing up, family members might joke about you, but that teasing is a part of how they nurture you. It's a way of saying, "We see you, but don't get too big-headed. You're still one of us." Outsiders, however, might see this humor as harsh or disrespectful because they don't recognize the affection underneath it. The best practice we can take from this article is to enter interactions with humility and curiosity instead of judgment. If Lee had just asked why the Bushmen reacted this way, he might have understood sooner. In intercultural communication, asking questions and listening deeply can help us avoid misunderstandings and see the care or values behind practices that may not look familiar at first. There have been many occurrences in my life where a joke is made and only the Black people in the room understand it, or growing up being joked at by family members. These experiences show how humor can create belonging within a group, but can be misread as exclusion or disrespect by outsiders. This mirrors Lee's understanding of the Bushmen's teasing. What he saw as ridicule was actually a form of bonding and love. This story challenges the idea that one's culture's values are normal or best. Lee's assumed generosity looked like Western-style gift-giving, but the Bushmen valued generosity in a very different way, through food and humility. The most significant lesson I gained from this article is that worldview shapes how we interpret others' behavior. What may feel like disrespect in one culture may actually be care, love, or humility in another. Intercultural communication works best when we ask, listen, and remain open to meanings beyond our own assumptions.